If your marriage green card interview was tomorrow, would you know what the USCIS could ask you? Because some of these questions are pretty obvious. How did you meet? When did you get married? Who came to your wedding? But some questions can get very specific and sometimes even a little bit weird. What side of the bed does your spouse sleep on? What did you do last weekend? What color is your spouse's toothbrush? What is the name of the Wi-Fi in your house? Yes, they can get that specific. So in this video, I am going to give you 52 common questions that may come up during your marriage green card interview. These are questions I have collected from real interviews and from my own experience attending interviews with my clients and preparing them for the interviews. And I am going to give you all 52 today. But I also want you to understand why these type of questions are being asked by officers. Because once you understand what USCIS is actually trying to find out, the interview starts to make a lot more sense. I'm Orelmy Diaz, I'm an immigration attorney, and I help spouses of US citizens apply for their green card without fear so they can build their future here in the United States. And I'm also an immigrant myself, so I understand this process from both sides. I understand it as an attorney, but also understand what it feels like when immigration is your life, your family, and your future. And I know how much anxiety one USCIS interview can create. So before I give you the questions, I want you to understand one very important thing. In a marriage green card case, USCIS needs to decide whether your marriage is real. The legal term is a bona fide marriage. In simple terms, they want to know, did these two people get married because they genuinely want to build a life together? Or was the marriage entered into just to get an immigration benefit? That is really the big picture behind a lot of what happened at the interview. USCIS is not there to decide whether you have the perfect marriage. They are not there to decide whether you will stay together forever. That's not what they care about. They are trying to understand whether this is a real, genuine marriage. And once you understand that, these questions make a lot more sense. Think about a real relationship. Obviously, there is a beginning. There is a first date. There are important dates. There are memories. There is a home. There is a routine. There are family members. There are friends. There are bills. There are things you do every day. There are little things you know about each other because you are actually living this life together. And that is what a lot of these questions are trying to understand. And this is why I tell my clients to prepare before the interview. You have to prepare. You don't need to memorize. You need to prepare. Take some time before the interview and go over the important events in your relationship together. When did you meet? When was your first date? When did the relationship become serious? When did you meet each other's families? When did you move in together? When did you get engaged? When did you get married? What important trips, holidays, or big events have happened since then? Go through those important dates together because USCIS wants to know the timeline of your relationship. And when you are sitting in front of an officer and you are nervous, sometimes you forget things. I see this all the time with real couples. The goal is not to create matching answers or memorize anything. The goal is to refresh your memory before the interview so you can talk about your relationship easily and clearly. And there is one more thing I tell my clients. Don't lie, please don't lie. If you don't remember something, say that you don't remember. If you are not sure, don't make things up just because you feel like you have to give the officer an answer. You are not supposed to be perfect, okay? You are supposed to be real. One mistake doesn't automatically means that your case is gonna be denied. One small difference between you and your spouse doesn't automatically means your marriage is fake. But making something up can create a problem that didn't need to exist, okay? It is much easier to explain I didn't remember than try to fix an answer that wasn't true, okay? Now that you understand what USCIS is trying to learn and how I want you to use these questions, let's get into all 52. When and where do you meet? Who introduced you or how did you meet? Where did you go for your first date? When did you start dating? How long did you date before getting engaged? Now, notice what those first questions are doing. They are helping the officer understand the beginning of your relationship. They are building a timeline. You met, you start dating, your relationship developed, eventually you decide to get engaged. This is exactly why I told you to review those important dates before the interview. You already have this story, okay? You don't have to create one or make things up. You just need to know your real story. When and where did you get engaged? Who proposed and how? When and where did you get married? Who attended your wedding? Did you have a reception? And the officer can ask you to describe it. Did you go on a honeymoon? And the officer can ask you, where did you go? Have either of you been married before? If yes, to whom and when? Again, these are major events in your relationship. Your engagement, your wedding, your honeymoon, prior marriages. And remember, you are two different human beings. You may not remember every small detail exactly the same way. Maybe one person remembers something happened in June and the other thinks it was July. That is completely normal. Don't panic. Don't look at your spouse like, oh my God, you just ruined the case. Listen to the question, answer what was asked, and please tell the truth. Now, let's talk about your home, because this is where the questions sometimes surprise people. Where do you currently live? Describe your home. How many bedrooms? What is the layout? What colors? What furniture? Really, the officer can ask anything about the home. How much is your rent or mortgage? And who pays it? Who else lives in your home? On what side of the bed does your spouse sleep? Where is the thermostat in your home? What color are the curtains in your bedroom? They can ask any of these things. And people hear these questions and they are like, how are these questions related to my immigration, right? But these questions are important because the officer wants to know that you know the place that you say you share, right? That is why you cannot just memorize a list like this. Maybe your officer never asked about your curtains, right? But maybe they ask what is next to your bed. Maybe they ask where you keep the towels. Maybe they ask something completely different. An officer can ask about your shared life in many different ways. So don't memorize the questions, understand your life, okay? Now, let's talk about your daily routine because this is a very important part of a real marriage. What time do you usually wake up on weekdays? What about weekends? Who gets up first? Who makes breakfast? What did you do last weekend? This is a very common question. Who usually cooks? What is your spouse's favorite food? What is their least favorite food? Where do you usually shop for groceries? Do you watch TV together? What shows do you watch? What kind of car does your spouse drive? This is everyday married life. What time do you wake up? Who leaves for work first? What did you do last weekend? What are you watching right now? Who cooks? Where do you buy groceries? These things sound small, but they can help an officer understand what a normal day in your relationship actually looks like. And that is another thing I want you to think about before the interview. Do not only know the big dates. Think about a normal day in your marriage from the minute you wake up until the minute you go to bed. What does your life actually looks like? What does your spouse normally do? What do you normally do? What do you do together? Because these are the things you know because you are living together, right? And if you are watching this because your interview is coming up and you are thinking, okay, I understand these questions, but I am still really nervous or I have questions. This is something I help couples with. I offer interview preparation as well as interview representation where we can look at your case, the application that was filed, your relationship history, and any issues that may matter in your interview. Because this video can help you with examples and help you understand what to expect, but a video cannot review your individual case. So if you need me, the link is in the description to book a consultation. Now, let's keep going because we still have some very interesting questions. What are your spouse parents' names? Have you met your in-laws? When? Do you have mutual friends? Who are they? Have you celebrated holidays together? Which ones? Did you get your spouse a gift for their last birthday? What was it? Again, think about the bigger picture. How are your life connected? Do you know each other's families, friends, birthdays, holidays? What does your relationship look like outside of just the two of you? Now, let's talk about money and work. Do you share a bank account? Who pays which bills? Do you both work? Where? What is your spouse's salary or hourly rate? And please understand something here. There is no one way that a real married couple have to manage their money. Some couples share everything. Some couples keep something separate. Some couples split bills. Some couples have one person pay the rent and the other person handles other expenses. The point is not to copy another couple, okay? The point is to explain how your real marriage actually works. Okay, now we are getting to the questions that people remember forever because they can get very specific and a little bit weird. What is the name of your home Wi-Fi network? Can you show proof on your phone that you have been connected to that Wi-Fi? What color is your spouse's toothbrush? Who takes out the trash? Where do you keep the laundry detergent? What side of the closet are your spouse's clothes on? What is one habit your spouse has that annoys you? And honestly, most married couples should be able to come up with at least one answer for that, okay? What is something your spouse likes to do that you don't? Who usually drives when you go out together? What brand of shampoo does your spouse use? Does your spouse like spicy food? The lesson is that an officer can ask about the little details of your shared life in many different ways. They can be creative with the questions. They may never ask about shampoo. They may ask something completely different. And that is why it is impossible for me or any attorney really to give you every question you could possibly be asked. These 52 questions are here to give you an idea of the type of questions that can come up. The point is not to prepare for every possible question because you cannot. The point is to understand your real relationship and the life you actually live together. And if you don't remember something, don't make it up. Say you don't remember again. You are not supposed to be perfect. You are supposed to be real. Now, the last 4 questions are a little bit different because this can touch more directly on the immigration history of the immigrant spouse. Why are you seeking adjustment of status from inside the United States instead of consular processing? Do you know that consular processing is an option? Is there anything that prevents you from leaving the United States and seeking consular processing instead? Why didn't you leave the United States before your visa expired? If a question touches on an overstay, a prior immigration case, a denial, a removal order, an arrest, fraud, misrepresentation, or anything else complicated in your immigration history, do not try to guess with what you think the officer wants to hear. Don't lie, don't hide something because you are scared, and don't build your legal strategy from a YouTube video, including my YouTube video, because this is not enough. That is when a licensed immigration attorney needs to look at your actual case and your actual history. So don't prepare by trying to look like the perfect couple. Prepare by understanding your own relationship, your story, your timeline, your home, your routine, your family, your finances, your everyday life, because the questions can change. And if you are just starting your marriage green card process, I created a free marriage green card guide that explains the major stages of the process in simple language. The link is right here in the description so you can get it. And if you would like to book a consultation with me, the link is also going to be in the description to book that consultation so we can talk about your case. And I will see you in the next video.